Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Executive Committee, 8th of February 2024. Welcome to members of the public who are attending. Welcome, members. Item 1, apologies for absence, although first I better do the emergency evacuation announcement. There are no planned fire drills. So if the alarm goes off, please leave the building in an orderly fashion through the nearest fire exit. Please use the fire exit through the main doors of the hall or the fire exit in the storeroom adjacent to the stage. The fire assembly point is the island in front of the main entrance of the building. Please do not delay your evacuation to collect any belongings. Please do not return to the building until given permission to do so by council staff. Please switch off mobile phones or turn them to silent. Please note that the meeting will be live streamed. And for members, please ensure your microphone is switched on when speaking and you speak clearly into the microphone. We have members of the public present, so I must ask you. Members of the public and press, whilst you are, of course, entitled to film or take photographs during this meeting, can I please emphasize to you that this should only be done without disruption to the meeting and can only be done from a designated area in the public seating. Can I please, therefore, ask you to raise your hand clearly in the air if you wish to take photographs or film this evening? No hands are up, so we are now clear to move to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence. I have an apology from Councillor Jim Cripps. Are there any others? No. Item 2, non-members attending. There are none. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of January 2024. Members, can I sign these as a true and fair view of the meeting that was held on that date?
Yep.
No other matters to arise? I will sign them. Thank you. Item 4, to receive declarations of interest. There are none. Item 5, questions on notice from councillors. There are none. Item 6, matters referred to the executive and reports from other committees. There are none. Item 7. Item 7 is the 24-25 budget and 24-29 medium-term financial strategy report. I intend to ask lead member, Councillor Michael Hoy, to lead on this item and present for members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The sorry, I'll just take some water. That's better. The executive on the 25th of January referred the budget and medium-term financial strategy to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. That committee met on 1st of February and agreed a recommendation which is presented to this executive tonight. In addition to this, the government issued its final local government financial settlement on 5th of February. The impact on Rochford 2024-25 budget, as compared to the provisional settlement built into the report, is to grant an additional £114,000 to the district. In light of this, I propose that £25,000 be earmarked to enable consultation with residents and consultancy in respect of regeneration of Rochford regarding the options for South Street and Freight House. I further propose that the balance of £89,000 be added to capital funding, which will help bridge the 2024-25 funding gap outlined in the report on page 9.12. I hope that this executive will consider these proposals and revise its proposed budget and MTFS to the full council on 20th February. Subject to this and the executive's discussions on the feedback from ONS, I propose the recommendations which are set out on page 7.11 to 7.2. Do you want me to read those proposals now or later?
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. I'll just ask if Mr. Willis, Interim Director of Resources, has anything he wishes to add.
No, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Members, before we move to the recommendations, are there any questions you have for Councillor Michael Hoy or Mr. Tim Willis? Thank you. It looks like Councillor Newport is ready. Go.
Thank you, Chairman. If I may, through you, Chairman, ask Councillor Hoy, the proposed budget of £25,000 for consultation. Can I just clarify at what point the details of that consultation will be sought and through which lead member? Thanks.
The scoping for the consultation hasn't yet been decided. I would expect that to go through the executive with the assistance of Mr. Willis and Ms. Fox. And assets.
I was going to add, Councillor Hoy, that I would appreciate the input of Phoebe Barnes in this particular matter, as who is leading the strategic asset programme as well. So thank you very much. There are no further questions put. Councillor Hoy has outlined proposals for changes to the draft report, turning it into a recommendation of a report to full council. Councillor Hoy, if you'd like to proceed with reading the recommendations, I'd be grateful.
Thank you, Chairman. The recommendations are set out on page 7.1, 7.2, item 2. Recommendation. So it is proposed that the executive recommends to council that it resolves R1, that the 2024-25 budget and 2024-29 medium-term financial strategy for both revenue and capital are approved. R2, that the Section 151 officer be authorised to adjust capital project budgets in 2024-25 after the 2023-24 accounts are closed and the amounts of slippage and budget carry forward required are confirmed. R3, that the increase in Rochford District Council tax of £7.55 for a Band D property, 2.99% for 2024-25 is approved by recorded vote. R4, that the proposed council tax requirement for the council's own purposes, excluding parish and town councils and precepts for 2024-25, is 8.583 million is noted. R4, that the statement of the robustness of the estimates and reserves at section 14 is noted. So they're the recommendations which we are approving to go to full council.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. You are moving those recommendations to be put. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Eaves is seconding. Right, I'm now going to put all of those R1 to R5 together as a vote. Do you approve of that?
Yeah,
thank you. In which case, I will ask for votes, please. Show of hands. Those who are in favour of recommendations R1 to R5 to full council. Looks pretty unanimous to me. from those present. Thank you. That completes item 7. Item 8. Item 8 is the Q3 Budget Monitoring Report 2024. And again, I have Councillor Michael Hoy is very busy this evening. He's going to present that Budget Monitoring Report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is the quarter 3 budget monitoring report. The report sets out the latest monitoring position for the current financial year. It forecasts a £240,000 underspend against the revised revenue budget. This underspend has been built into the revenue assumptions in the budget and MTFS report. It further forecasts a £2.5 million underspend on the capital programme against the revised programme of £6.1 million as set out in Appendix 3. I propose the executive that this report be noted.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Can I ask whether any members have any questions for Councillor Hoy or indeed Mr. Willis, please? Looks to me there are none, in which case I will move from the chair that this report be noted. Do we all agree?
Noted. Yeah.
Thank you. Item 9. Item 9 is the Joint Leisure Procurement Strategy. To consider the report of the Executive Lead Member for Leisure, Tourism and Wellbeing, Councillor Julie Gooding. Councillor Gooding, I'm going to invite you to present your report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this procurement strategy is to set out the Council's approach to the procurement process, establish a balance to meeting the Council requirements whilst making the opportunity attractive to the market, set out a clear strategic direction for the development of the contract and procurement documents. In the strategic objectives, our focus on delivering a financial sustainable service, improve physical and mental health and well-being of our residents, with a high quality, innovative services and supporting the Council net zero carbon ambitions. The strategy is based on a joint contract with Brentwood Borough Council, which will enable us to jointly procure an operator for leisure services for both councils, which will improve the financial position through economies of scale that makes the offer attractive to operators by promoting a large market share in South Essex and improves the quality of service to our residents. The report sets out the benefits as well as the perceived risks of procuring jointly in detail. The Leisure Working Group has reviewed the benefits, risks and mitigating action of joint procurement. The working group are recommending this strategy to the Executive for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gooding. I'd like to ask whether Phoebe Barnes or Mark Aldis would like to add anything to the presentation that's been given.
Nothing to add, but we're both happy to take any questions.
Thank you. In which case, members, the floor is open for questions, so go get it. Councillor Mrs Newport, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I may have overlooked it, but I do believe it was said at one point about the energy tariff. Can you confirm what the setup is going to be with regards to the energy tariff, please?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the proposal within the strategy is that there's a shared risk with the energy tariff moving forward. So the current arrangement with the current leisure operator is they've got full responsibility for energy consumption, energy tariffs. But the advice we've been given is that operators may not bid if they're with the kind of uncertainty around energy tariffs. Operators may not bid if they're required to take on full responsibility. So the mechanism that we put in place is that the operator would have full responsibility for consumption. But when it comes to the tariff, they would have responsibility up to a certain point linked to inflation, and then anything above that would become the responsibility of the council. The danger of not doing that would be if energy prices did actually drop during the term of the contract, then the council could end up paying kind of a higher amount within the management fee than would otherwise be the case. They wouldn't have any benefit from that. So that's the proposal put forward. But yeah, we have been advised that some operators may not bid if they were asked to take on full responsibility.
Come back.
Yes, please. Thank you, Chair. And what's the benefit of that for the council at the end of the day? Financial benefit. Will we gain from that if the energy prices fall?
So if the operator had full responsibility, they would obviously build that into the management fee. So therefore, if there was subsequently a drop in energy prices, then the council wouldn't benefit from that.
But if we, with the system that you said of where the council cover a certain amount of the energy, if the energy tariff then falls, say we're going to pay they're going to pay £1,000 a month, and the bill's £1,500 a month, so the council's put in £500 a month. If the tariff falls and they're not having to pay £1,000 a month, do we get any of that money back? Is what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, no, I understand the question.
Thank
I'd have
you.
to seek clarification on that unless you've got any figure.
So to answer your point, yes, there would be a benefit. So the proposal is, as Marcus highlighted out, so there would be a cap around consumption. So the purpose of anything being consumed over the cap, subject to inflation, would then allow us to push back on consumption. So if energy rates were to fall, and then the operator would pick them up, and there would be less of a financial pressure to us. As Mark's quite rightly pointed out, if we don't go down that route, what bidders will do is they'll build the risk into their management fee. So actually, by going out and procuring at this stage, our management fee should be less, and therefore we're able to manage the risk of inflation and utility costs through the contract rather than being stuck with a higher management fee from the offset.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chair. Just to ask that, should we improve the building in any way? Will we refund? Will we get the money back and not go to the management that are doing it? In other words, if we ever put in a electric source like solar or heating or anything like that, would that be down to us to put that in, or would that be the management that will take it over to put that in? And would we receive any benefit from that, or would they receive the benefit from it?
So with the proposals, we are looking at options on investment in the building, and we'll have that open dialogue with bidders. And the purpose of that is to look at if the council was willing to put any investment in, what additional revenue that could generate for an operator. Therefore, that would then be built into their management fee. So yes, we would get a financial return by having a reduced management fee payable to an operator or income coming back. Also, the purpose of the procurement strategy highlights that we would look at the performance on an annual basis on an open book approach on the profit, and therefore any profits over and above would come back into the council as well.
My other question, if I may, Chair, with both assets being operated by a single management, will there be any differential between what is spent on both properties, and will that be in comparison, or will it be one will be spent more or less on the other one? Because I do think that maybe there could be a differential of finances going into each property. If you could clarify that, thank you.
Yep. So under the contract, each site will the financial performance will be monitored per site. So the expenditure, the income will be presented for each site. So one won't cross subsidise the other. We will highlight what investment needs to be made in each building, what income and expenditure is expected from each site as well. So it's one overarching contract with the detail per site sitting directly underneath it.
So each site will have its own financial
Yeah, that's
gains
correct.
or whatever the case is.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Mrs Wilson, thank you.
Hello, Chair, thank you. I'm just seeking, excuse me, I'm seeking clarification. I'm going to refer to Appendix 3, and I'm really sorry, but having read Appendix 3, I was getting very confused. So 9.4 states that cross-party has 5 members. 9.49 lists 7 names. 9.51, the membership under membership and frequency states there are 6 members. 9.52 lists 6 names, and 9.53 lists 5 names. So just seeking clarification as to how many members are on the working group. I think the names are less important. I think we just need to be consistent all the way through. Sorry. Thank you.
Councillor Gooding, can you clarify?
Yeah, just to clarify for councillor, the working group consists of 5 members, and there are 2 members that were put on there but are no longer on there. So did you want me to name the 2 members that are removed?
Yes, please, and I'll just
Okay.
amend my notes. Thank you.
Okay, so that's councillor Tracy Knight and councillor Lisa Newport.
Thank you. Councillor Reeves, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Bearing in mind that the project is being done over the 2 councils and we are looking for a saving there, 6.0 on page 9.8, we're looking at an allocation of £105,000 there to the procurement. Do I take it that that is Rochford's contribution to it and that Brentwood has a similar amount that they're putting into it?
Yeah, that 105,000 is for Rochford alone, yes, yeah.
It just seems to me that if we're looking at £250,000 to allocate a contract, that seems rather a large amount of money. Can we justify that?
So jointly procuring the contract with Brentwood has seen savings. So to the SLC, the consultants that we've got working with us, having a joint procurement, that's cost the cost of the council is less than it would have been had we procured a contract solely as Rochester District Council.
It still does seem like an awful lot of money for one contract to be procured. That's my opinion.
Can I follow up on that? One assumes, and I'm going to ask, that that there was obviously a competitive tender for the consultancy to provide the procurement, and therefore I hope you're going to tell me that it was the best value and more particularly the best suited to provide that procurement. Can you guide us on that, please, Phoebe? Thank you.
Yeah, we did. We procured the consultants. The funds allocated are not only just for the consultants. It's also for the external legal support that we will need in writing the contracts, producing the tender documents, and the support we need through the procurement as well. It's a budget. We won't spend it if we don't have to. It's just an allocated sums to allow us to deliver a procurement of this value and this size, because it's a 10-year contract with 5 years plus. So it's a considerable size contract for the organisation. So we need to make sure that we are doing it right, and the biggest expense will be our legal support to make sure the contract is solid.
Do you want to come back on that, Councillor Reeves?
No, I'm fine with that answer. Thank you.
Yes, of course, Mark.
So yeah, just to add to that, I mean, the consultants that we are working with, SLC, they wrote the guidance that Sport England have produced. They were the consultants that Sport England used to produce the guidance in procuring leisure contracts. So we feel we've got the, very good kind of advice and guidance and support through them. And I hope the members of the leisure working group would agree that the meetings we've had and the guidance that they've given has been excellent so far.
Any other questions, members? Councillor Mrs Newport, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask, on average, what's the saving that we've made by doing a joint procured contract or procuring a joint contract? Do you have a figure, please?
So the report that went to executive in December 2022 outlined a budget of 75,000 for the feasibility study and procurement, and the cost of that is around 16,000 less than that budget by jointly procuring.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Hoy.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Could Ms Barnes just answer around the reasons given for not considering an in-house option? There are comments made, obviously, around why we can't. Is this purely down to a lack of expertise within the council to run these centres, or is it more? Is it deeper than that? Thank you.
Phoebe, would you like to update Councillor Hoy?
So obviously, when the decision to procure an operator went to the exec on December 22, they obviously was presented with other options which are highlighted in section 3 of the report on pages 9.5 to 9.6. And they did look at options of in-house, and one of the issues is, yes, we do not have the resources in-house in order to operate an in-house as a service. In addition to that, it will be the financial costs as well. It will be considerably higher to what we've got now in the budget. That's predominantly a lot of that is associated with high on costs for employing staff through a local authority with pension and national insurance, which we can't compete with the private market because of that. So options have been considered. Obviously, we are aware that the working group did discuss looking at in-house, and a further update will be presented to the executive members on that for them to make a decision at a future date.
Councillor Hoy.
Okay, thank you. One further questions. Can I just state for the record that I'm aware of some of the answers to these questions, but I think it's important I just raise them in public so people know that these have been raised. That's all. On the second one, obviously, historically, we've had problems where the contract, which was originally with Holmes Place, was then taken over by Virgin Leisure and then latterly by Fusion. Can you just say what the process would be if a contract was similarly sold on or moved on to a different provider, which we might not be happy with? I know I've spoken about this previously, so I understand there was an answer for that. Thank you.
Yeah, but obviously, as was referred to earlier, we'll be getting external legal advice in terms of the drawing up of the contracts, of the leisure contracts. Obviously, they will ensure that that contract, covers that situation. I know when the current contract was novated across to Fusion Lifestyle, there were some questions asked around the contract then, but that's why we're getting external legal advice to draw up the contract to ensure that there are no issues moving forward with that. I mean, I can't comment on the Holmes Place to Virgin Active. I think that was when they were bought out by Virgin Active. So couldn't comment on what the situation would be with a company being bought out. But I think the novation to Fusion Lifestyle is something we'll ensure is covered with the external legal advice we take.
I'd like to come in here on that question, if I may. I assume that within the contract that the matter of novation would be dealt with, and there should be provisions in there which are tests upon the proposal, which would include, in my expectation, the permission an agreement of the councils. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct. And as Mark's pointed out, so we are scoping out the legal support that we need through this contract and to address issues like that. I think as well, going forward with a new contract, scoping out all the issues and making it as solid as possible. We're looking at how we internally contract manage as well, so that when issues arise with the contract, we can deal with them in a relevant manner quickly, so we can get the right decision for the organisation at the same time.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of things actually have just sprung to mind in the way we have actually executed with our workings with Fusion. In as much as, will there be something in the agreement that as a private company, we won't be supporting them if they have difficulty in their finances, which is what's happened in the past. And also,
Can I just come in here, Councillor?
Sorry.
Would you mind if I come in here?
Yeah, that's
Just to interject. I've had some experience of commercial contracts, and what you will find in commercial contracts, there are a thing called financial covenants, and therefore that covers the performance, the financial performance, and the financial standing of your operator. So they will be built into the contract. Well, that's my opinion. I hope that Phoebe is going to agree with me.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry to cut across you. I just thought it would be quicker to advise you of how those matters are handled.
I'm happy with that answer.
If you could continue, thank you.
Okay. And my other question is, who will oversee the if you like, the management of the management that we are going to put on for this service? Who is going to oversee it? Who is going to be responsible? Will it be the working group, the working committee, or who will be looking at the performance of them?
so I would expect that the operator would report to an overview and scrutiny committee on the basis of what was agreed, 6 monthly or annually, but that would be my preference, is that the overview and scrutiny committee would have the operator report to them.
So we wouldn't have somebody that could actually go in there and see if they're operating in the right performance that we want.
So
Is that what you're
from an
saying?
operational perspective, as an organisation, at the moment, how it works is Mark oversees the contract management as an officer and reports to me as a director, and we have monthly meetings with the operator, and that would be the same going forward, and we'd build that all into the contract going forward with the open dialogue with potential bidders that is coming up. So there'll be an officer perspective of how we manage the contract operationally, and then from, I suppose, a council perspective, they have the opportunity to scrutinise and review the operator through the ONS committee.
Reason that I say this is that we've done, James and myself have done inspection of premises through the operator that we've got at the moment. And we've done that as if you like, councillors that can go and have a look at, see what's going on and how things work. So I expect the same operation will work in the future.
Yeah.
Can I come in here? I'd like to come in and say, of course, we'll be operating under a committee structure, and there will be an appropriate committee chairman. And that committee chairman is obviously the person who, if members wish to make a business visit to a leisure centre, then of course it would be courtesy to ask them first, and that they may wish to join that chairman on the appropriate quarterly or other type of visit. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, I have. I want to behave like Columbo tonight. And another thing. Obviously, in this procurement, and I've read the Appendix 3 carefully several times, we are obviously seeking further services, additional services for our residents. There are also changes in the likely structure of the financial side of the contract required by bidders. And we have the thing we've been talking about this evening, the budget. And obviously this is a contract which is due to be put in place for April 25. That means that we need to know as a council as soon as possible just what the financial impacts are and proposals are upon the budget for the 25 budget. And essentially, I'm going to ask Phoebe if she can give me some idea, based on how the project plan is written, when that information is likely to come available, because I'm sure that the 151 officer and staff will want to work on that as soon as possible.
So based on the project timeline, revised tender submissions are due to come in the end of October this year, with evaluation early November. We will be looking to award the contracts to full council in December, ideally to allow for mobilisation. Therefore, all the financials would be relayed into finance at that point in time. So it would be in line with budget setting for next year.
Thank you. I'm relieved, and we'll be looking forward to seeing that come forward in the appropriate timescale. Any further questions? None. Okay. Members, thank you for considering the report, asking appropriate questions of officers. Councillor Gooding, would you like to consider putting the recommendations in the report to the committee, please?
Thank you, Chair. Recommendation 1 is for Rochford District Council procures a joint leisure operator with Brentwood Borough Council. And recommendation 2 is to agree the leisure working group proposed procured strategy as per Appendix 1. Thank you.
So that is moved by Councillor Mrs. Gooding, seconded by Councillor Mrs. Wilson. Are you agreeable for having both recommendations put forward concurrently, voting on together?
Yeah.
Okay. The recommendations properly put. Can I have a vote of those in favour, please? Show your hand. Looks unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, members. Now move to item 9. No, item 10. Item 10 is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund 2024-25 to consider the report of the Executive Lead Member for Resources, Climate Change and Economy, Councillor Michael Hoy, setting out an approach to distributing the Council's 24-25 allocation from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund in accordance with the already agreed investment plan. I understand that Mr. Steve Summers is going to present the UK SPF report to the committee. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. So you're correct. This report sets out a recommended approach to distributing the Council's 2024-25 allocation from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund in accordance with its agreed investment plan. After consultation with a wide range of community stakeholders, as per the UK SPF guidance, the Council prioritised the interventions E1, E4 and E23 in its investment plan. The details of this are set out and the funding, associated funding for all 3 years of the UK SPF are set out in 211 and 212 of the report on page 10.3. In addition, it's recommended there's two methods of allocating the funding. The first being a community grant programme that's similar to the one that we provided last year, and the details of this are set out in Appendix A. And then secondly, the second part of that remaining portion of the allocation is funded through council-led projects, and the summary of the identified project areas is set out and expanded upon in Appendix B. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. I'm going to ask Councillor Hoy if he'd like to add anything to the presentation so far.
Yeah, thank you. Just very briefly, I feel I've spoken too much already tonight. I just want to draw people's attention to page 10.17, where we have High Street and Town Centre rejuvenation works, as well as the £100,000 from the UK SPF fund. There is also sitting in our balance sheet another £50,000 for High Street regeneration, which we will also be looking to distribute as well. So in total, we've got around £150,000 to do that work with, which is £100,000 from the UK SPF and £50,000 from our already agreed reserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. Councillor Reeves, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions around this. I've taken quite a big interest in this. One of the things that I am keen to be ensured doesn't happen is that we spend a huge chunk of this on consultants and managements sort of fees and charges. One of the things that I'm a little bit concerned about, I must admit, is the level of salary that we're looking at for employing someone to look at the tourism post for this particular year. £75,000 when we're starting from ground zero seems rather a rich amount of salary for someone who's coming in from ground zero to do anything. Now, there may be an argument there that, okay, you need that level of person in to actually bring that up. But I wonder if it would be better spent on things such as developing the Cherry Orchard, as in putting events on. Now, both Julie Gooding and Steve Summers both have had intense conversations with me around a lot of the ideas that I've had. And since I've shared those ideas, I've had nothing back at all. And they are things that I think will actually make a big difference to the offering that this actual council has, or this area has, when you consider that we have a rich history in this area and it has never been commemorated. We had a rather weak offering a few years back when we were talking about the Beagle, and that's had no lasting really effect on the area, which was one of the things that was actually a project brief for that. And my concern is that we end up in the same situation. We spend an awful lot of money on superfluous stuff and actually don't end up doing anything. So I wonder if we could have some answers on that, please.
I want to interject here because we're agreeing the framework tonight. We're not looking at individual applications for money in particular, you know, for things like the Beagle and so forth. So I just need to draw that to your attention, Councillor Rees, just so we don't run away with seeking to distribute the funds tonight. But your questions are noted, and I think Councillor Hoy wants to come back on them. There were two. Firstly, you made the question of you were concerned that a significant proportion of the funds could be spent on consultancy. And in the second case, you've drawn attention to the proposed salary, the proposed costs of a permanent employee for the matter of tourism. Correct? Thank you.
That's right, thank you.
Councillor Hoy.
Yeah, I share Councillor Eves' aversion to consultants for consultants' sake. This will not be spent on consultants, it will be spent on work. With regard to the 12-month tourism and events officer post with a dedicated budget. At the moment, there is no resource effectively in tourism. It's whatever economic development can do in addition to their normal roles. So this is not just a post, it's also a budget, and it will be decided whereabouts that the role sits with money and how much budget they will have to work with. And as Chairman said, this is to be decided how that's going to work later. Thank you.
So essentially, that's a budget figure of £75,000, which isn't necessarily all going to be directed in the costs of a limited post appointment, correct?
Correct.
Do you wish to add to that?
No, the councillor is correct.
Any other questions? Councillor Mrs. Gooding, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will be very brief, but just to, as the lead member for tourism, which is the questions that have been raised, we are meeting on regular basis regarding the situation on tourism. Now we have members in place. We are building on what was previously done, and we just haven't updated the executive on what's been going on. So I'm quite happy to take this offline and talk to you about it. Does that help?
Does, Councillor Gooding? It sounds like an update is required for the executive at some point, or more likely, the appropriate committee chairman needs to take it on board in their work plan, because as I understand it, every chair of committee in future, like ONS, will have to have a work plan set out for the work of their committee for the year. So you may need to buttonhole somebody to do that. Any further questions, members?
Yes.
Councillor Stanley, thank you.
Forgive me for asking the question, but am I to understand that the person that takes on this role is going to come up with ideas and for this UK SPF, whatever that is, or is it through a committee later that will introduce these and this is what's happening? I don't quite understand where this person comes in relation to the whole project.
Councillor Stanley, we have heard that it's decisions have not been made how the 75,000 is exactly to be deployed. So there is an expectation that there will be further application, even from within the council, to the fund to determine what that's going to be spent on. So your expectation that there will be further work done and further proposals put are real, and that will happen. Councillor Mrs. Gooding.
I'd just like to ask either Mr. Willis or Councillor Hoy, is the budget that has been put forward for the walking and cycling enhancements to Cherry Orchard, is that going to be sufficient to do what's written in the plan there?
Any takers?
Chair, I can give an answer from my perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Which would be, in order to respect the budget that is allocated, whatever that may end up being, the amount of work that is carried out at Cherry Orchard will only be as far as the budget allows.
That was another way of what I said earlier, but nevertheless, it was far more elegant, and I thank you. Any further questions, members? There aren't any. So, Councillor Hoy, do you want to lead us through the recommendations, please?
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
I will read out the recommendations, R1 to R3. Recommendation 1, that authority be delegated to the Strategic Director in consultation with the lead member for Resources, Climate Change and Economy to operate a community grant programme funded by an allocation of up to £250,000 of the Council's 2024-25 UK SPF allocation. R2, that authority be delegated to the Strategic Director in consultation with the lead member for Resources, Climate Change and Economy to spend the remaining proportion of the Council's 2024-25 UK SP, sorry, got it wrong then, UKPS, sorry, it's written down wrongly in the report, that's not a problem, UK SPF allocation in broad alignment with the provisions of Appendix B. R3, that the Strategic Director be asked to provide quarterly updates to the Executive concerning the latest position of UK SPF expenditure plans and to invite the Executive to advise should any significant change of circumstances arise.
So recommendations are proposed by Councillor Michael Hoy. Do we have a seconder? Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs Gooding. Do you agree that we can take all three recommendations in one vote? Okay. In which case, I'll invite you to show on a show of hands to show those in favour, please. That is also unanimous. Thank you, members and members of the public. I believe we've now completed the agenda. I would like to thank you for your attendance, and I close the meeting at 8:22. Thank you, Councillor Newport. Thank you.